we came up with a very simple mission statement. That mission statement is to bring back the lost art of genuine human connection. And I got one last thing to say, and I'm dead serious when I say this. I genuinely, and Maddie genuinely believes we were put on earth to do exactly what we're doing now. We love doing this. We love meeting new people, and it just gets us so freaking excited. We think you as family, and we love you all. So, at the base and the heart of midlife crisis, not gonna lie, it's Mikey G and Maddie Mintz. And why it is because over 30 years ago, I met this crazy SOB at the 4th grade bus stop. I swear to you, when I first laid eyes on this dude, he was perpendicular to the ground, or not perpendicular, like horizontal to the ground, hanging at a 90-degree off a stop sign. And I was like, what the hell did I just get myself into? And since that, we had a budding, flourishing relationship, been best friends our whole lives. Obviously, life got in the way. You go to college, you get married, you start businesses, things happen. Fittingly enough, our midlife crisis brought us back together, hence the name. We're older than most people in this space, but we found NFTs about a year ago, and then we said, you know what, we're really gonna create a company. As we get more connected, as we go into the metaverse, what we're about to do is meeting new people, having real, raw conversations. We think it's gonna become a lost art. So we're here to make that happen, to bring it all to you, and to help you expand, learn, and grow. And we came up with a very simple mission statement. That mission statement is to bring back the lost art of genuine human connection. And I got one last thing to say, and I'm dead serious when I say this. I genuinely, and Maddie genuinely believes we were put on earth to do exactly what we're doing now. We love doing this. We love meeting new people, and it just gets us so freaking excited. We think you as family, and we love you all. So, at the base and the heart of midlife crisis, not gonna lie, it's Mikey G and Maddie Mintz. And why it is because over 30 years ago, I met this crazy SOB at the 4th grade bus stop. I swear to you, when I first laid eyes on this dude, he was perpendicular to the ground, or not perpendicular, like horizontal to the ground, hanging at a 90-degree off a stop sign. And I was like, what the hell did I just get myself into? And since that, we had a budding, flourishing relationship, been best friends our whole lives. Obviously, life got in the way. You go to college, you get married, you start businesses, things happen. Fittingly enough, our midlife crisis brought us back together, hence the name. We're older than most people in this space, but we found NFTs about a year ago, and then we said, you know what, we're really gonna create a company. As we get more connected, as we go into the metaverse, what we're about to do is meeting new people, having real, raw conversations. We think it's gonna become a lost art. So we're here to make that happen, to bring it all to you, and to help you expand, learn, and grow. And we came up with a very simple mission statement. That mission statement is to bring back the lost art of genuine human connection. And I got one last thing to say, and I'm dead serious when I say this. I genuinely, and Maddie genuinely believes we were put on earth to do exactly what we're doing now. We love doing this. We love meeting new people, and it just gets us so freaking excited. We think you as family, and we love you all. So, at the base and the heart of midlife crisis, not gonna lie, it's Mikey G and Maddie Mintz. And why it is because over 30 years ago, I met this crazy SOB at the 4th grade bus stop. I swear to you, when I first laid eyes on this dude, he was perpendicular to the ground, or not perpendicular, like horizontal to the ground, hanging at a 90-degree off a stop sign. And I was like, what the hell did I just get myself into? And since that, we had a budding, flourishing relationship, been best friends our whole lives. Obviously, life got in the way. You go to college, you get married, you start businesses, things happen. Fittingly enough, our midlife crisis brought us back together, hence the name. We're older than most people in this space, but we found NFTs about a year ago, and then we said, you know what, we're really gonna create a company. As we get more connected, as we go into the metaverse, what we're about to do is meeting new people, having real raw conversations. We think it's going to become a lost art. So we're here to make that happen, to bring it all to you, and to help you expand, learn, and grow. And we came up with a very simple mission statement. That mission statement is to bring back the lost art of genuine human connection. And I got one last thing to say, and I'm dead serious when I say this. I genuinely, and Maddie genuinely believes we were put on earth to do exactly what we're doing now. We love doing this. We love meeting new people, and it just gets us so freaking excited. We think you as family, and we love you all. So, at the base and the heart of midlife crisis, not gonna lie, it's what up, folks? Mikey G, midlife crisis here. We're freaking stoked. We got the Tripsters. I don't know if we will actually be tripping during the show, but I don't know. Who the hell knows what'll happen tonight?
You never know. All right, you unmuted, right? Just want to make sure we don't do that again.
Dude, just bring on the YouTube just to be safe. I don't want to get down the rabbit hole and be like, what the hell? Nobody heard what I just said. We've done that many a times before, Jason.
Oh, I hear you. I hear you.
Oh. And hey, listen, I already screwed the stream up. I don't have Dare's actual handle up there, but I'll get you, dog. I'll get you. Don't you even worry about that as we're talking. Welcome to the show, y'all. We got Tripsters tonight. We got the founder and one of the core team members, Dare. We're going to have a freaking blast. But before we do, give the OGs a little bit of a shout out. Who we got in chat, man? I don't even have it up yet. We got Celos. Is Celos there? I think I see Celos. I'm looking at the wrong video. Celos is there. Celos is always there because he's the freaking goat.
Absolutely. You know, we'll get Bonji, we'll get Star, we'll get
Bonji, Yolanda, all of the OG crew. God, I have so much fun doing this. I cannot wait. Maddie, how's your day going, man? I know you've been busy. What's going on?
Yeah, man. Today was a good day. Today was a good day. We are starting. So, you know, when it's nice weather, I get excited, right? And fall's my favorite season, and the leaves are just starting to change. And you know, it's those days where the moisture's out of the air and it's like a little bit crisp. You almost want to think about a hoodie, but it's perfect in a t-shirt.
Right.
It's those days, man. It's real nice. And so always easy to be happy then. But yeah, man, clients were good today. Everything went smooth. Got back. I was excited to stream, and this is going to be it, man. This is what we do. This is the fun part. So next couple hours is going to be a blast. And I do see Midnight Moon in chat. What's up?
Welcome to the stream, Midnight Moon. We appreciate you.
Absolutely.
You know, you bring up a good point. I had no clue fall was your favorite season. And, you know, it used to be mine by far because I used to be a craft beer guy, and there's nothing like a pumpkin stout or a pumpkin flavored beer. Damn, I love that. But I'm a West Coast guy now, and I'm out in Cali. And you know one thing, coming from the East Coast, I thought for sure fall and winter just would never feel the same. But I'm fully acclimated, man. I feel fall out here. I feel winter, and it's just a lot nicer weather too, and I'm close to the beach, so
yeah. No, I get you, man. I get you.
I'm good with that. But there is not. Listen, I will say, if the one thing I would have never probably experienced is there is something about a crisp fall day. You can smell fall in the air, and you're driving up to Penn State, and all the leaves are changing fiery red and golden and this awesome orange. That's hard to replicate, man. That is just a cool
fires are burning.
Time.
You can smell it. Yeah, that's good.
Hell yeah. Well, with that being said, you all got to see and hear the new midlife intro. Shout out to God for that. His real name is Ray. He is not God. Um, and so I don't have to go through that spiel. So we're going to get straight into it. And I am super, super excited. We have the founders here. I think, man, Jason, you have one of the more interesting intro stories. I don't even know if I'm going to do this justice. I'll start with.
I can do it because you haven't seen the movie, have you?
I see it, but I didn't remember. So you do it, Maddie. I'd actually love
All
for
right,
you to
all
do
right,
that.
all right. So here's the deal, guys. If you've ever seen the movie Molly's Game, okay, and by the way, as movies go, fantastic movie. It was one of those movies I put on Netflix saying, what is this? I'm not sure. I wasn't necessarily stoked on the trailer. And you watch it, and first of all, the cast is out of this world. I was totally blown away by the cast. Everything is well portrayed. But if you ever watch this movie, it's a movie about poker, specifically underground poker games, and there's some drama that unfolds and some stuff that brings in some need for attorneys and government interjection and whatnot. Very good movie. But here's what's cool. She created this high stakes poker game, and it was so well known that celebrities would go and join in on these games to get in on the action. Our guy Jason here was at those tables. He was sitting there dropping poker. He was saying, like Maverick, throwing an ace of spades royal flush to people like Leonardo DiCaprio and Tobey Maguire. And I think that is one of the cooler stories I have heard as a fun fact, because there's got to be some stuff he can't tell us. You know what I mean? There's probably some juice
Dude,
there
dude.
that went down, and I guarantee it was a good time. So, but that is an amazing fact, because how many times do you meet a person where they make a movie based on a story and you meet the real people that was based off of? This story was so good, they made a movie about it, and he was there as one of the characters, and that's pretty cool.
Welcome to the show, man. Glad to have you. How you doing?
Yeah, it is great to be here, guys. It really is. It's an honor. It's a pleasure, and I look forward to kicking back with you guys.
Oh, dude, we're gonna kick back. That's
good.
what we do. This is not an AMA. We don't really like Twitter Spaces, although we're thinking about putting this on Twitter Spaces to destroy what's happening out there now. I think people just come and listen to this because it's so interesting. All right, you have to, before we get to Dare, just like the whole playing the poker. I mean, assuming you just didn't realize what was happening at the time, you're just going to hang out with buddies and have fun, right? Or was there like a sense of like, this is high stakes, like probably shouldn't be doing this type of shit stuff?
I mean, it was, I mean, it was high stakes. So you certainly never think that something like that's going to happen with the government getting involved,
Right.
But I mean, it was high. I was young then, and like I had a pretty, nerve-wracking feeling at those games because it was such high stakes.
I can only imagine. We're gonna have to talk about more of that offline, but I am just fascinated by that story, man.
Absolutely.
And then Maddie, I'm gonna give you the opportunity to introduce our boy Dare Vader.
Okay, not a problem. Okay, so Dare, part of the core team. Here's the thing about this. When we said we need to know an interesting fact, he immediately rolled to one of the scariest moments of his life. And if you all have a fear of water and the ocean, you're going to relate to this. So here's what happens. 11 years old, he's having a good time. He's swimming at the beach. He's down in Puerto Rico. Most people having the time of their life, right? That's what Dare was doing, having the time of his life. Except for his family was on the beach. They were having a little panic attack because they could see something that Dare could not see. And that was a tiger shark was circling Dare in the water, round and round. He had no idea. They start screaming. He sees it. He starts screaming, does the worst possible thing you can do, starts swimming as fast as you can. That's all he told us, but I'm going to fill in some blanks here. I'm pretty sure what happened is the tiger shark attacked. Dare punched it in the face, taught it a lesson, and that's how he made his escape. And that's where the name came from, because his buddy said, you see that tiger shark out there? You won't go out there and swim. I dare you won't do. And then there it is. And that's it.
I love that.
Dare survived a tiger shark attack at 11. and now he's not afraid of sharks anymore because he realized all you have to do is punch him in the face.
Dude,
Little fun fact for you.
welcome to the show, Dare. Super excited to have you. And can you answer me this question? Whenever you're scared shitless, do you just go back to the 11-year-old self and being like, I waved off a freaking tiger shark. I don't give a shit.
Honestly,
I feel like
I still have miniature panic attacks. We were out boating a little while ago with my wife, and she kind of fell in the water from our little boat. And it's just a lake. And I jumped in because she seemed like she was struggling.
Right.
As I got to her, like the adrenaline went back down, and I immediately thought of sharks again. I was like, we need to get out of here.
Okay. That is.
No, they don't exist here, but there's a chance.
That's a reasonable answer. That's a reasonable answer.
That is a reasonable answer.
Listen,
but
man,
is everything else kind of downhill from there? I feel like everything else is easy now that you've done that.
Yeah, I'm not too afraid of anything.
There you go.
I'm actually just only ever concerned when I'm in the water and I can't see what's inside.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are there. You at least have a valid reason for that. So that's a good one.
Exactly. I don't know. It's just even the thought of being very deep underwater scares the shit out of me. I don't know. And I'm comfortable with water. Totally comfortable with water. I swam my whole life. I'm totally love it. But dude, thank you for being on the show. Thanks both of you for sharing just a little bit about yourself. We think that's a great way to kind of break the ice, get the community to know you. You know, of course, we're doing this live, but there will be people that watch this. It's going to be on our YouTube channel. And something that I usually say offline, but I'll just say online, we'll cut this down to 10 to 20 videos, and we'll share with you guys that you can use for marketing or share with your community in the future. Yeah. Because we'll talk about a lot of interesting things. So with that amazing intro done and ready to go, I'm going to start with you, Jason. Like I said, back to the top. World famous midlife crisis question. How did you get to the seat you're sitting in today? Give us Star Wars episode 1, 2, and 3. Start when you were a baby in a crib, elementary school, high school, college, wherever you want to go, man. Molly's room, we can start there. Up to you.
Okay, so I mean, I was raised in Cleveland, Ohio.
Nice.
All right.
Yeah, it was I was kind of I never really liked to learn. I mean, I was like ADD, never really. I was probably more or less. Yeah, I don't know. Reading disabilities. School wasn't my thing. So you know, at a somewhat of an early age, I kind of just kind of gravitated away from it.
Yep.
You know, I kind of used to hang out a lot, smoke a lot of weed,
Nothing wrong with
watch
that.
TV, MTV shit, you know, just chill. Really just didn't do much in high school. And then I went away for a gap year and really just, I'm going to fast forward, I guess, to I ended up trying college in New York. I knew Cleveland, Ohio wasn't for me. There just wasn't a lot of opportunity.
Yes.
Um,
I'd agree
you
with
know,
that.
unless you want to become a doctor or a lawyer, or you're born into a family business,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be stuck working hourly wages, one way or another. And I just knew I wanted more for my life.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you know what, I'm going to move to the land of opportunity and move to Brooklyn, sleeping on a friend's couch, going to college, and playing poker a lot. One night, I was playing in the city. There's a bunch of poker rooms, not high stakes at all, not Molly's game.
We weren't there yet.
No, I was not even close to there. You know, a couple $100, whatnot. And I was pretty good. I wasn't bad.
Yeah.
One night I got wrecked.
Yeah.
I lost all my money. Super depressed. My friend's like, "Yo, check out this Gamblers Anonymous meeting in Brooklyn." And so I go there, smoking a cigarette outside, and I meet this guy who's involved with this thing called life settlements. And I get to chatting with the guy, and the guy's like, "I'm like, I need a job." He's like, "Oh, I have an opening." He's like, "Come in tomorrow." That was Sunday night. He's like, "Come in tomorrow. You start tomorrow." I grew up poor. Next thing you know, I'm in this office. and I literally like stepped into like a different universe. So there's something called life settlements. Most people don't know about it. It's a niche market where you could buy someone's life insurance policies. Secondary market where if someone doesn't want it anymore, you could buy it, pay the premium, you collect death benefit when the person passes away. And I walk into a world I never knew existed. You know, these guys are just like, these are the same guys that got me to Molly's game. And they're in Brooklyn. There's just straight Brooklyn hustlers. And I start,
Yeah.
you know, making coffee for them. Like the second day I was there, these guys are counting out like hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash. Like I'm like what the fuck just happened? And you know, I'm like I literally just walked into like a whole you know, I literally had the most money I ever made at that point in my life, a couple $100 a week. And
Right.
you know, it was this small office for and these guys were like making they probably made like $200 million in 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah, they're
Jeez.
printing money like a mother, and these guys are gamblers, hardcore fucking gamblers.
Right.
And so they were. I like walked into this room. You know, the guy kind of took me under his belt, and he taught me a ton about business. I mean, you know, how to make quick decisions, how to make money. How about that? He taught me how to make money. He taught
Yeah.
like before I walked in there, like you know, money was taboo to me. Like you know, in order to make money, you kind of have to like. I don't want to use the word entitled because Web3 is a whole different word than entitlement.
Yeah.
But you gotta be able to. You gotta have the mindset that you're servant of it, right? Like and when you
Yes.
grow up, when you grow up poor, you don't have that. It's almost like it's like a foreign language to you. And he kind of taught me that. He's like, just fucking money, dude. Just fucking talk about it. And like even when I was just trying to like negotiate my salary, he was just like, why are you so awkward? Just money. Just talk. Like it's the weather. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it was, you know, and you know, I learned a lot during those years, and um, yeah, I mean, it was just like I just walked into this, like I just tripped onto like a great opportunity, and like all my friends, like I was like the kid who was smoking weed, and no one ever thought I'd be successful, right? And like all my
Right.
friends are
Yeah.
like, they're in their third year at college, and I'm like 2-bedroom apartment, and this is before like internet days where you know kids are making good money, like.
Right.
I'm like driving like an Acura and like I'm balling. And
Right.
everyone's
Right.
like, how do you just how did that just happen? And like, you know, even I kind of like I was like 22 years old and made a couple $1 million. It was like, you know, all of a sudden I was like the kid who had money, and you know, I had so many learning lessons from that point. Like, you know, obviously like all my friends who I knew, like, you know, all these other hustlers, you know, I got this investment, that investment.
Yeah.
And I ended up learning a lot about like investing and trusting people and like what and what not to do. You know, I made so many early mistakes as when I was
Sure.
younger that
Yeah, man.
during that time period, I obviously I spent years chasing that money, but I just it was so many experiences that I was able to learn, and then from that job, from that Brooklyn job, I ended up I started managing portfolios of life settlements, like large portfolios, a couple $100 million. So
Yeah.
it also did pretty young age, like 25, 26, started working for a public company. And that's when I started playing in Molly's Room. And, you know, I went from there to a hedge fund, also just managing these assets. And then the hedge fund I was working on actually got raided by the feds. And during that time period, I basically had to wind down the investment. So I started selling off all the assets. When I sold off all the assets, I made all these connections in a whole different element of this industry. Really, a fund to fund, which is just a high level aspect of it. Basically, they traded at a very high level, big portfolios, just almost like trading it like you know, I guess big deals, and I kind of like opened my mind of capabilities and possibilities, and really, you know, at that point, like barriers are just broken in terms of what I'm capable of doing, what my mind's capable of doing, and type of numbers I'm able to do.
Yeah.
And when that happened, I started my own fund. age 31.
Wow.
Yeah.
But right away, like, and I saw what I working for an institution, working for a hedge fund, I really, really understood the inner workings of how they work. And also at this point, I'm in the industry. I was already in the industry for 11 years, I think. And I really got to see it from a long period of time. I really saw the ebbs and flows. And mind you, when I first got involved, when I walked into that office in Brooklyn, it was a very new industry. It was only 3, 4 years old, maybe 2, 3 years old, and really people were just printing money. It was just like what just happened in the NFT market was like kind of similar to
Yeah,
that. It
being
was like
early,
this
man. Being early is huge, right?
yeah, it was, but then it fell off a cliff. Literally fucking fell off a cliff. But I saw that boom, and then I saw the falling off a cliff, and I saw what happened. I saw what happened with institutions, and that also was a tremendous learning experience for me, and really gave me a huge advantage later on in life. But um, I started my own fund in 2016. I was still operational. I was still managing it. It's not a lot from. I mean, I manage it at a high level. Um, I have a whole office, a team, and that's kind of how I got into Web3. I kind of just like got to a point where I just was kind of busy, maybe a month out of the year. And I was more or less I was like this for like 3, 4 years, but I'd get myself into trouble instead of doing good. So I realized I had to really, really find something to really become passionate about
Right.
and do good with my time, because
Yeah.
I definitely have a risk appetite, and if
Yeah.
if I'm not moving forward, I'm moving backwards, and I got involved in Web3 by I was a crypto investor. Um, I did pretty well. I one experience that just like completely wrecked me. As you see, guys see, I have a bit of a gambler streak in me. So
Yeah.
I like taking shots on shit coins, whatever, and
Hmm.
I invested. I was pretty early to Doge. I was my first real experience of I kind of hit Stella early, and then Stella went to Doge, and then Shiba Inu. I found that really early.
Yeah.
Took a big shot and paid off big. It was. But then Shiba Inu kind of went up like this, and then kind of went back down.
Yeah.
And I was kind of just like following Elon Musk.
Hmm.
I'm just like, he just people are just completely and anything he says. Just, I also had a feeling that SNL was a terrible mistake. I'm like,
Yeah.
before SNL, the guy wasn't human, and he goes in SNL. I'm like, I told my friend, I'm like, it's gonna humanize him.
Yep. It did.
Yeah.
And exactly what happened. It just completely fell off. But I saw they got Floki, a dog named Floki. And I'm kind of still naive at this point, so I'm thinking at this point that CoinMarketCap is where like the first place you could buy coins. I didn't know enough to know that you could just go on Etherscan and
Yeah.
see right when they're minted.
Yeah.
So I see the first coin that comes on CoinMarketCap, and I took a big fucking shot. And it was like a Thursday night. By Friday afternoon, my fucking money was gone. And
Oh,
then the real Floki comes out Sunday, but at that point I'm like so distraught and devastated, and the next 2, 3 months of my life were just hell because Floki just went on an absolute tear. And I live in Miami, and Floki was everywhere. I couldn't get away with it. They have trucks with
Mm.
Floki all everywhere.
Mm.
And I kind of like get out of this depression. And I'm like, you know what? I'm sick of betting on someone else's horse. Mm, Let me see what I can do to become a creator. Um, And my other founder, 5M, he would handle my crypto. See, this is also another thing. Like it's so easy to open a fucking MetaMask account, but
Mm-hmm.
being that I'm just like this businessman who just like have people doing shit for me, I just had a trader doing, like, I'm just like, I didn't know how to do any of this. Like, I knew how to buy off Coinbase, but anything off Coinbase, I
Right.
didn't realize how simple it was. But so I had someone do it, and me and 5M got to talking, and he had this idea for this NFT, and I'm just like, I'm at this point, I'm already starting to buy mutants, and we come up with the idea for Tripsters. We start assembling the team, and like we kind of have, like 5M was big into tripping, shrooms, and like, it's kind of like there's a lot of parallels between decentralized medicine, decentralized finance.
Sure.
So, and it's
I like
very
that.
much with the culture. It goes with the culture, and we had this idea of what would happen if you tripped your ape, and like we found a good artist, we found a dev, and things are going smooth, and we're very very we're very hyped going
So
into
hold
it.
on real quick. I don't mean to cut you off, but you're getting into the project, and bro,
Oh,
bro,
no,
bro,
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
we still need to talk. We
This
still
is
need
1,
to
2, and
hear.
3. I forgot. I
Dude,
forgot.
you got to, dude. I will give you this. I am very impressed. You went the farthest out of any guest, and we've talked to over 100 guests at this point. So I do appreciate that. But we still need to hear Dare's story. And dude, you said a lot of interesting stuff.
Yes.
And I can't, like, before we go to Dare, gotta pick your brain. And I gotta go first, Maddie.
Go ahead, man.
And then you can go, dude. Bravo for still being alive, because if I went through what you went through, I probably wouldn't be here. So, damn, dude. I mean, being 21, having multi-millions of dollars in the bank account, going from literally nothing to meeting a guy, and the next day you're in the thick of things, like, that had to be just such a trip. But you said something very interesting, and I think it's something that is why we really do the show more than NFTs and Web3. We love leadership and life lessons and mentorship. And one of the things that you said is you made a lot of big mistakes in the beginning, especially, I'm sure, when you were young and you had a ton of money. Could you tell us, or, life lessons in essence, or the mistakes that you made that you could share with our community or anybody that watched this that, really come to mind, maybe one or two from that time period, and things that you kind of hold close to your chest now?
Yeah, I mean, look, when you're young, you make money, you kind of, you don't know how to underwrite risk, you don't know how to underwrite a deal, and you think every opportunity that comes your way just sounds good, right? Or you kind of, you realize that, that how about this piece of advice is that chasing money is terrible for business.
I love that.
You just never, you really got to be careful about, headache risk when it comes to investing, and really, how much do you really want to put, control into something, like how there's different type of investments, right? You can make investments into a stock market, right? And like, that's really, that's on you, right? You pick the right stock, pick the wrong stock. But when you give your money to someone else, you really have to not only trust them, but trust that they know what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
And if they don't know what they're doing, chances are they're taking a shot on your dime, right? They're let them learn from someone else. But aside from that, just even the risk of the money is one thing. The risk of your mental health is a whole other thing.
Right.
And then so when it comes to investing, you really gotta factor that in as well.
I love that, man.
And you know, a lot of people don't have access to investments, and don't have the, you know, the experience, the the intellect to make, you know, wise decisions, and people are gonna, you know, like if you're young, you know, your friends are gonna come to you and say, "Look, I have this crazy business idea. It's gonna sound really freaking good, but um, you know, is it really good? I mean, you don't really have much experience to be able to kind of do the proper due diligence." And so, you know, another piece of advice is it's okay to make mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Dude, I
you
love
know,
like I love what you just said though too, is like, and you know, I've seen this, and I think it's why I love it is it's very relevant to the NFT market, especially what we're going through now, right? You know, 6 months ago, you know, there was people that made hundreds of thousands of dollars and felt like they could do no wrong, but they just didn't know, right? And now a lot of them probably have no money or are out money, right? And unfortunately, some people will take it very, very hard, and it's not going to be a good situation. But other people, and the people that can learn from that, uh, will have the ability to grow and continue to grow. What are your thoughts there?
I, I mean, the NFT space is an interesting space. I think there's a lot of opportunity. You know, obviously, as we see right now, the short-term money, quick buck isn't there right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have a theory about really what I have a theory on blockchain technology. How about that? I think
Let's
blockchain
hear it.
technology is the future. So, you know, obviously coming from Wall Street, and I have a
Yep.
tremendous, I have a lot of, you know, insurance experience and real estate investing experience, and as I really got involved, I really started learning about smart contracts. Is I really I have this theory that, you know, so much is going to be living on the blockchain.
Yeah.
Um, Now, obviously, NFTs are simply art, um, but it that lives on the blockchain,
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of popularized, you know, this boom. And but if you think about it, you know, in 10, 15 years, if you think about how much of day-to-day life is going to be on the blockchain, um, that the projects right now that make it, um, are going to go down as the Renaissance age of NFT, of art on the blockchain, right? It's the first. We're living through the Renaissance period of art, and there's going to be certain collections that are going to be absolutely priceless. I think NFT art, and you know, if you compare it to traditional art, there's obviously a lot of parallels, and there's also a lot of differences. Um,
Mhm.
and throughout this period, I really studied a lot about art in general, and the history of art, and you know, art on the blockchain being that it's through Web3 really popularized quicker, and uh, you know, popularized at literally lightning speed across the globe,
Right.
which the art world's never really seen, right? And you also have, so there's also accessibility, right? And accessibility kind of works both ways. It's good and it's bad, right? And you see that with ship projects. With, I mean, anyone, imagine in the world, right? That anyone who sold or um, you know, a paint could just all of a sudden just post their art and have someone bid on it and buy it, right? That's kind of what you're seeing with art and blockchain, is that anyone could just create something and just put it up, and people will buy it. But a lot of it is just shit. Um, but at the same time, that same accessibility is the same thing that will make it very, very valuable, because it's no longer exclusive to a certain sect of extremely wealthy people, right? If you think about it, traditional art, right? What makes a Van Gogh worth what it's worth is that there's a community of people out there pretty exclusive community of people that hold it a value. So they know that if I buy in 2022, and that same community of people, someone else from that community will buy it from me in 2030 for a lot more money. But it's simply a community of people, but it's a small community of people. Art on the blockchain, it's more of a volume game. I'm sorry, it's more of a it's less quality but more quantity. But when you have more quantity, you also capture a lot more different walks of life of wealth. It's no longer, and that's kind of what you kind of saw with Bored Ape and CryptoPunks. You start seeing athletes get involved, right? Athletes and music artists and that's why they're valuable, because there are people within their community that are pretty influential and affluent, and that's what makes art valuable. I mean, art in general is the epitome of an asset. The definition of an asset. It is worth what the next person is willing to pay for it. So if you have people in your community that have a lot of money, that art becomes that are willing to pay for it.
It becomes valuable.
Then that's what creates the market.
Right.
Now, when you have on the blockchain, it's accessible to everyone. Right now, we're living in a period where it's accessible to everyone, but not everyone really knows how to access it. But when it's adopted, when blockchain technology is mass adopted, and right now we're talking about hundreds of thousands of people that know how to access it. What happens when there's tens of millions?
Yeah.
Right. And they're focused on a certain set of collections, right? Those collections are going to be just absolutely extremely valuable. The question is which ones? And I think
yeah. Well, there goes you were talking about, like, right, the idea of the attraction to risk, right? I mean, it like you said, we don't know which ones, but whatever they are, it's kind of like a Powerball ticket. You know what I mean? It's fun to think about the idea that, like, wait a second. The cool part is that we're in a position now where we actually have some influence over which ones those are going to be, which is exciting, right? Because we're going to have that kind of insider information, so to speak, because we were here from the beginning, as you said. So I think that's an interesting breakdown. One quick question I had, because I want to get Dare going too, but you started your story by saying how you and school didn't get along very well, and I think a lot of kids can relate to that. A lot of people can relate to that. Because school's taught one specific way, but it's not geared towards every learning style, right? But yet, when you went to the meeting and the guy said, "Hey, I got a job for you tomorrow," let me ask you a question. Do you feel like you picked up the skill set that was required to succeed in that very quickly?
I mean, it certainly wasn't very quickly. I mean, I guess it was. I got lucky first, but the I mean they don't teach you business in school.
Of course. I
They
guess that's what.
they don't teach you experience in school.
Yeah.
I think you learn so much more from experiencing something one time than you learn from years in school. And
Yeah.
that's kind of my philosophy with business, and I've tried many different businesses because I
Sure.
just say, look, the amount you learn from doing something from 0 to 1, 1 to 10 is just 0 to 1 is when you learn everything. And as long as you're okay making mistakes and really understanding that it's impossible to know what you're doing at first. I mean, and
Yeah.
to really break into an industry is not easy. People, industries in general are pretty. It takes a lot of learning. It takes a lot of
Yeah.
really temperament to, like, kind of know just to get to know the people, the players, the with the flow, what to do, what not to do, and I think people Yeah, that's kind of really why I stuck around, right? Like I was involved with this industry where it boomed and then it busted, and
Yeah.
everyone left,
Yeah.
and then I stuck around, and I'm probably one of one who does what I do in the world. So like I when everyone leaves, it's the best time to really really gain ground, especially if
Sure.
you believe in it, especially if you believe in it, right? I think
Yeah. No, I
gotta
agree.
you gotta believe.
I just think it's a fascinating story because, so what it really reminds me of is, and Mike, I'm curious to take it. You have a very kind of Jordan Belfort story. You know what I mean? It's like kind of came from nothing, but you acquired these skill sets and you learned and iterated and made something out of yourself at a very young age. And hopefully without the going to
Right.
jail part. You don't want that part on
Right.
there.
No.
But no, but like, he really stressed about how it's like I learned skills, and I'm not knocking a formal, traditional liberal arts education. But listen, you know, since college, I've never in a job had somebody say, but you might need the Pythagorean theorem for that. Or can you tell me what the adverb was in that sentence? Like nobody ever cares about that. It's like you either know you have competency and a skill set or you don't. And the people who have competency make a lot of money. And the people who don't, it doesn't matter how formally educated you are, they get washed out. And so I don't think that the answer is all one or all the other, but I do think
No.
you're right in that we neglect a lot of those skills at a young age, and I think some of those would be beneficial. But I think it's really cool that your life puts you in a position to learn those. It's the school of hard knocks, right? I mean, we always you hear the cliche, there's about real experience, like life experience, and street smart, right? And it seems like you acquired a tremendous amount of street smarts and those put you in a position to be able to thrive, learn. And then it's just very interesting because, on one hand, Mike and I have a good friend who traditionally went through school, got the education, got the finance degree. You get an early job at a JP Morgan or a Wells Fargo or something, you work your way up. And the goal is to one day, you pass your Series 7, one day you manage a fund. And you basically skipped all of that, went straight to I made a couple $1 million, and then all of a sudden you were injected into that world, and then you were managing a hedge fund, which is like people go get their PhD to do that. You know what I mean? And so it's just a very interesting route that both people can get to that same thing. And I think that that's just something worth mentioning for people to understand. There's multiple ways to skin a cat. I think that life experience can be something there. I think it's a good way to open up your eyes because a lot of people will get stuck in the minutia of, well, let me go read 10 books on this, or you could just go do it. And like you said, 0 to 1 is where you're going to get that main batch of learning. So anyway, I commend you for it. I think it's a fascinating story.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, look, it was, I look back and really it's also a confidence game. And like, I look back to like even how when I went on my own,
Mhm.
um, like I kind of started somewhat small, and then, I got a little bit bigger, and then,
Yeah.
once you like believe that you could do something, that's
Mhm.
like the ultimate power, right?
Oh,
And I
huge.
think,
Oh yeah, big time.
I think,
Mike says that all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
but
big one.
it's true belief, right?
Yeah.
And you have nothing, and you have nothing to lose by believing in yourself.
Yeah.
But people don't. It takes. I guess it takes. I try to tell my kids, you gotta believe, it's confidence. I tell them at the basketball court, I'm like, it's a confidence game. Just believe you can hit the
Yeah.
shot. But
Yeah.
it really, it's really it's that simple, but that difficult at the same time.
Yeah.
True.
And
Because
and
you really,
go ahead. Go ahead.
no, because it's belief isn't something where you kind of believe or you don't believe. It's like belief is belief.
Yeah.
Um, and to get to that point where you truly believe in yourself, I guess it takes time and really getting to know yourself.
I love it. And one last question. I promise we'll go to you, Dare. You are next after this question.
All good.
I'm really interested in your answer to this because you've had such a really cool story looking back at all of it and even up till now and maybe even thinking about in the future. What do you think the most valuable skill set is that you've learned throughout this process?
Well, which process? The Web3 or the Wall Street
Your life.
one? Or in
Just
general?
life.
Your life, man.
Yeah. From
From
Cleveland to
from
Web3.
Cleveland to the seat you're sitting in today.
Cleveland, listen to Bone
Um,
And
Thugs.
being in Molly's room.
The most valuable skill set. Really, I gotta say it's belief.
I
You
like
gotta
it.
believe. That's you gotta believe. That's
You got to
certainly
see
the
it
most.
first. All right.
No,
Cool.
you just it's kind of like and also being okay with making mistakes.
Mhm.
Not having a temperament. Having a routine. Knowing understanding what kind of could take you down. People talk about FUD. I always say internal FUD is the worst FUD. It's a lot
Oh,
worse than
I
external
like
FUD.
that. We're gonna write that one down, man. The wise words of Jason. Internal FUD's the worst FUD. I love that. But yeah, I would
Like it.
say, dude, like a lot of those things you hear in a lot of books, but I really like this belief concept because tons of people have been on the show and not many people have said that. And I will use it as an example in ours, right? Like we have been doing this for years at this point. A lot of video games before this, but NFTs and not till recently have we really, kind of doubled down in the belief that like, listen, we got something here. We think we do things differently than are what
Yeah.
in the space. And now, when I have conversations, the expectation is we're worth something, right? And we've got listen, Maddie and I are very kind-hearted people and we will give everything away for free if we can. But we love doing this and you can't give everything away for free forever, else we can't do this forever, right?
Yeah.
So we need to sustain that, and that narrative and the shift in the narrative is really founded in belief. So I love that you say that because it's true.
So something you mentioned, something else very important is that realizing that it's a process, right?
Yes.
Like the things that come instant gratification are the things that come and go. But the things that and people aren't always willing, to go through a process.
Mhm.
Success is not overnight. It is not the definition of success. Success is having the temperament and the realization, the self realization that it's a process, and that and at the same time that you just never know when that big break is going to come,
Yep.
right? But you got to keep
Absolutely.
at it.
Yep. And ironically, like we were saying earlier, right? Our traction has really started through this, quote unquote crypto winner or NFT winner, because one thing that we didn't even, we knew we put a mission statement together. We built a company, right? Most media, quote unquote influencer people, they just start making content and see what happens, right? We went out very intentional with what we wanted to do. So I thought that set us apart. But what we didn't realize was just how the content was really going to evaporate, because we didn't realize how big of a percentage of the NFT crypto world in media and content creation is really 1000x your bag, buy this project. But that's not what we're about. We never wanted to be called alpha. We want to have real conversations with people like you that are interested in creating stuff and have unique stories. Like that's what's important to us. And it's a situation like this actually really helps us out because it allows us to thrive and shine. So that's going back to what you were saying. We didn't know what we knew until it kind of happened, right?
Right.
Cool.
Right.
Awesome conversation. Thank you so much for that background. Now, as promised, that was my last question. Dare, we're on to you, buddy. So I want same midlife crisis question. How did you get the seat you're sitting in today, man? And feel free to start at 11-year-old punching tiger sharks in the water, or before, after, whatever you want to do, man. We're ready to hear.
Yeah. So my life kind of bounced around a little bit.
Okay.
I was born in Puerto Rico.
Okay.
I come from a Hispanic background. My family's all Puerto Rican, essentially. And I think 4 or 5 months in to like being a baby that's been born, we had moved to Michigan. And I lived the first 7-ish years in Michigan. So I grew up speaking in Spanish at home, but traditionally just speaking in English with everyone else in the world.
Right.
And then my parents decided to go back home. And that's when, about 7 or 8 years old, we moved back to Puerto Rico. And then I transitioned from always speaking in English around outside and speaking Spanish at home. I mostly started speaking Spanish again. And it was definitely weird going back and forth so drastically, especially because in Puerto Rico, classes are taught and enforced to be in English, since it's a territory of the United States.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I really made my life there. Since it was more of the growing years of actually being like 7 and above, that's when you really start remembering your childhood and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember I was just about to enter high school. I was very excited for it because we have the middle school in one section, and then right next to the middle school is the high school. And I've been growing up with my friends. We all know what we want to do in life and all, middle school stuff. And my parents kind of surprised me saying that we're going to move back to Michigan.
Oh my gosh, man. You're back and forth how many times at this point?
Yeah.
Well, actually, my dad was, or is, I guess, technically still. He was a pastor, so we had
Okay.
moved around a lot.
Yeah.
I think I still remember I've moved 22 times in my life, like from house to house.
Wow.
And so like that part of moving was like, that's okay, but like when it's really just crossing to another side of the world,
Yeah.
much more drastic. And I remember like that felt like the worst news I had heard. I had to break up with my then girlfriend. I was just starting freshman year. I was about to lose my in real life best friend.
Yeah.
The life I thought I would have, the graduation I thought I would have, just
Yeah.
kind of like all crumbling down. And I remember just being really, really frustrated by that. Because it's just a lot of moving. It's a
Yeah.
lot of moving. Like I've been so stable in one area, at least in one school, even though I've been moving from house to house in different parts of the island. That was like really tough.
Yeah.
And it didn't help because my dad is a pastor. It's not like it's a ton of money. So I also had to grow up kind of like, if I really wanted something, I had to make justifiable presentations to my mom about like why I have it.
Oh,
Dude,
so
I
he
heard
learned
your
sales.
presentation skills.
Yeah,
and
he learned
skills,
sales.
bro.
Yeah. My mom always told me that, not everything in life is going to be given to you, and it's not like we have everything. I remember times it got bad, like really bad, and my mom's like, "Hey, for like a couple days, we're gonna have to survive with whatever we got here."
Right.
It taught me at a young age how to eat ice as a snack. So we would get just ice cubes from the fridge and eat that as a snack. And um, now my puppy does it. I've taught her how to eat that as a snack. Um, but like I really grew up to learn that if I wanted something, I had to make it happen myself. Um, and I had to figure out a way to do it. Like if I actually really wanted something, and I couldn't get the financial help to do it as a gift or whatever, then I had to come up with a way to do it. And that's when the gears started turning, and like, you know, I love people, and if I want something, I'm going to work hard to do something, grind it out for a little bit just so that I can then purchase or get whatever I wanted. And when I moved back to Michigan and I had a whole new school, it was midway freshman year. I went into this new school, bunch of new people, very tiny from what I was coming to, from like a class of 25-ish people down to a class of 8 people, including me. Um, I was in that school for 3 months, and then my dad had to move again. So we moved from Detroit to Grand Rapids, and I was in a third school that year for the last month. So in 1 year, I was in 3 schools.
Jeez,
Jeez.
man.
Yeah, that was definitely the toughest time. But in that time, like, I really adjusted back to like the American life, and I adjusted to like speaking English in full time
Hmm.
and losing a lot of the things, like, Hispanic culture. You go see, your friends, you hug them, you see girls, you kiss them on the cheek as like an introduction, a hello. Um, Move back to American culture, it's nothing like that. There is no hugging. There is no kissing girls on the
Well,
cheeks
in
and whatnot.
Detroit, for sure.
And Detroit's a rough place to be doing that.
Yeah.
So like, there's so
Yes.
much culture, and
Midwest. That's why me and Dare see eye. That's why me and Dare see eye to eye. We got that Midwest blood in us.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of hugging. There's nothing wrong with that. I hug Matt often.
so that's happening, and I'm transitioning schools. We're figuring out where to live because it's like all rental stuff at the time, temporary situations, and I've never had like a home.
Yeah.
And that's when we finally moved to Grand Rapids. That was like our first real home. It was purchased. It wasn't, rented out. And that's where I lived actually, that's where my parents lived for like 5 years. After completing freshman year in those 3 schools, I completed my next sophomore year in high school. And then following love, I decided to go to a boarding school so I can go be with this girl. And things didn't end up well with that girl, but I ended up loving boarding school.
Oh, that's good.
It wasn't
good.
like a military boarding school. It was one of those like really private but very nice boarding schools. Because one thing my parents always believed in, even though we never had money, is it doesn't matter what it is. We want you to have the best opportunity in education. And they've had racist experiences in public schools.
Yeah.
And in private school, money kind of conquers all.
Yeah, the ultimate language.
Yeah, so like I've always been in private schools, and I asked my parents, I want to go to this boarding school. That means leaving from home and staying there. It's like 2.5 hours away from Grand Rapids. And, I was mostly doing it to chase this girl, but I also still don't really know anyone because it's a whole new school again.
Yeah.
Those things don't work out with her, but I create incredible relationships and friends there. And that's actually where I met my current wife. We've been dating since junior year of high school. Next year is our 10 years like together.
There you go. Worked out.
It did work out. But I hated school. Just like Jason, I was never good at school. And I was mostly not good because I feel like I'm only good at things that I enjoy or I find value, or because I'm doing it for the purpose of trying to earn something else.
Sure.
And in school, it always felt meaningless. The relationships were, and the general knowledge and understanding is great. But like when it got really academic, I really struggled. So I always kind of skated by.
Yeah.
I went to private university for like 4 or 5 years, and I only ever came out of it with an associate's degree, and it was just kind of like I was just done. I was just ready to be done with school in general. Like
Sure.
I just know my career path has nothing to do with
What'd you study?
work job. Well, I started off in business, and I had some really good business classes. Um, and I did a little bit of psychology.
Okay,
Um,
these are good. These are good fundamentals. All right.
yeah, and then it came to the very advanced math classes that are required for business, and that's when I stopped. Um, and I decided to pursue I think it's called liberal arts, which is like a very broad degree,
Yeah. Yep.
with a focus on business. So I had a minor in business, and I was able to graduate that way. And right out of college, I had one of my current best friends was friends with another church member, and he was the CFO of one of these like specialty companies.
hmm
And I was introduced. I actually had met him a long time ago. I just didn't remember it. And we hit it off, and he gave me an opportunity to do accounting, which is all math. And I said, listen, I'm just not good at this. He's
Yeah.
like, don't worry about it. Like, it's just a job. Um, and then I did that for a few months, and early February, that's when I started getting into the swing of like NFTs because of my best friend. And that's when I got Tripsters on my radar. And
Okay.
like ever since then, I've just kind of really shifted a lot of my life to like NFTs because there's definitely enough money to live,
hmm
and that kind of allowed real life to take a step back, and I was able to transition a life from working IRL to just full-time committing to NFTs.
I love it,
And
man.
it's been
Yeah.
really great. Did
Yeah.
not require a degree.
Yeah, and you can do what you love, and especially if it's interesting you, and make decent money doing it. Especially, well, not right now, but over the last year, you can make decent money.
Yeah.
Before we get to, because I'd love to hear Jason about his kind of evolution of starting the project, but one question that just sticks out in my mind: insane amount of moves and change. Looking back, any thoughts on we obviously know the negative aspects, but looking back on it now, do you gain any insight or knowledge from having so many, I know when you're in the moment it feels like the end of the world, but now you've had time to reflect. Any thoughts about that?
Yeah, actually. I learned up knowing, if you know me in real life, I'm not very talkative, unless like we're obviously engaging in some sort of way.
Right.
I'm a very quiet, kind of observant person. I'm not necessarily introverted per se, but if put to the task, like I can get on a stage and talk to people. Um, I have I have the confidence from moving around so much and having to meet so many people, but I have the reservations of only wanting really intimate relationships with people.
Hmm.
And growing up, I found that I think the key to life is, and even the key to business, is honestly the relationships you have with people.
Yeah.
Ooh, I
Um,
like that.
money gets kind of pushed to the side really easily, and people are kind of very open to, I mean, providing money, providing assistance, being there for you, being your friend, picking you back up, just because of the fundamental relationship you have with others. Um, and I think even in NFTs, you know, when you buy into an NFT, you can buy into the hype and you can buy into like, the backing that the NFT has. But I think the best in NFTs are the ones that have those really strong relationships. And I think that's what I've just grown up learning is if I want something, I need to get it done. And the best way to get things done is by having people that you have been honest with, you've treated with respect, that you cherish that relationship for, and you foster a nice environment to, be good.
Yeah,
The golden rule, treat others
Yeah.
as you want to be treated.
dude. I love that.
Well said.
Great answer and very well said. Maddie, any other thoughts for Dare before I move back to Jason about getting
Yeah.
into Web3 and starting the old Tripsters?
Well, I think it's interesting because again, here we have a story where it wasn't formal education that made it for you, but it was who you knew, and that got you and that got your foot in the door for an opportunity. But I'd also like to note that what you just said about it's not about the money, it's about building real relationships with people that you respect. That says a lot about you, Jason, because the team that's being cultivated with what you guys are doing is attracting somebody like a Dare who isn't looking for a lot of the kind of empty, hey, let's just do this rah 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 stuff. He's looking for the meaningful, hey, let's do this, and if we're going to do it, let's build a real community. And Mike and I say all the time, man, community is where it is. If you don't have a community behind you, it's very difficult to succeed in this space. And if you're pulling people like a Dare and you're gravitating those type of people, that to me is a big green flag for a project. If people who are very sensitive to and cognizant, you know, their intuition is telling them that this is a good group to be around or not. If you're pulling people like that, that's a good sign. So I think that speaks volumes for what's being created. So I just thought I'd mention that.
No, love it, man.
Yep. We're very
Yeah.
we're very grateful to have Dare as a core member of what we're building. And me and Dare hit it off. Have similar personalities.
That's cool.
They always, like also, you know, it's kind of, I also moved. I went to a lot of like new schools growing up, and not knowing anyone, and you know, I don't know if Derek could relate, but it sounds like he could. Like, you know, being put in that predicament, you kind of learn how to be uncomfortable. That's really how you grow.
Yeah.
You know, by at a young age, you know, kind of having to learn to adapt.
Well,
Kind of.
absolutely. And I would say this day and age, it's a vital skill because it's not learned, right? I mean, it is staggering to me how many people do not know how to just start a conversation. You know, you meet somebody, they don't know how to shake a hand, they don't know how to look you in the eye, and just the ability to meet new people confidently, right, is a lost art. I mean, people don't talk to people anymore. They just assume, you know, get your Instagram or your Twitter or something and then send you a text than have a real conversation. It's very difficult for people to start conversations now in person, and it's getting hard. And you see it getting worse as you see the next generation coming up. You know, kids are texting each other and they're literally 4 seats away from each other, and it's like, well, just say hi. And it's amazing how that is, as that grows, the ability to be uncomfortable, walk into a room, and be able to say hello and make friends quickly. It's a lost art, man. So I think that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lisa and I have that's really nice is actually really like it is I have to DM and text everyone,
Yeah.
but literally with Jason, he just calls me and he'll be like, "Hey there," and then just go off to tell me what he needs to tell me.
Yeah.
And we can just so much can happen in just a quick 2 to 3 minute call rather than just going back and forth and texting each other, which is what the relationship is like with most people. And I
Sure.
honestly do prefer people that actually call me just because the conversations are just much more genuine and they almost feel faster because there's no, you know, having to tag or literally at someone to get their attention again because they've walked away.
Right. No, I love it. That's a great point.
No, I
Great
love
point.
that
Mikey,
point too.
what do you think?
Oh, I love the conversation. I think it's all good, and I think it's the, you know, you don't need me to go into my brand 3.0 thing.
Yeah.
You know, I think that is the most special thing about NFTs is you're bringing people to like-minded people together in communities, and it's going to forever change the course of traditional business. And I think a lot will be learned from typical corporate America through this NFT crypto community journey. And I can't wait for it to impact the old stodgy way we do things because something's gotta change, man. So back to you, Jason. Let's talk about, you're starting to trade crypto. You're still a freaking hedge fund manager, own a company. You know, money has been in and out of your life. And you even specifically said, and something Maddie and I firmly agree with, when you start letting money decide your decisions all the time, where you start chasing it, lots of times you can end up in a bad situation. So it's cool to hear you say that, and knowing that you had started an NFT, and most likely money wasn't the reason that you did it. You were interested in the technology, you believe in it. So can you take us through the journey of really, rolling the sleeves up? You had said you just started buying some mutants and really investing in the space, and take us from there to starting Tripsters.
So I really started really studying, right? Like studying because I was investing in all the shit coins and really kind of like trying to analyze, what was, the driving force in some projects. They're all, and once I started really learning about smart contracts and whatnot, and then like what is the driving force of a successful project compared to an unsuccessful project? Obviously, the right intentions, the right founders. But I wasn't really there yet. I was really, really studying. So once after that thing with Poker happened, I really started studying Etherscan, and when I'm not trying to get political here, but I the right call. But let's go, Brandon. I saw that one coming from a million miles away.
Right.
And I at this point I already learned about Etherscan, so I started. Before they were launching, you could see, or as they were launching, and before like you see which ones built the community. There's like 15 of them that launched, right? All
Right.
at the same time. But then I'm starting to study, okay, well, what is, some of them have this community behind it. So I'm realizing at this point that, okay, like so much of it is about this community. Once you have this community, you have all these shillers, and you basically have soldiers soldiers that are kind of aligned with the same purpose. And I realize that it's about community. It's so much about community, especially a Web3 project. At this point, I was really focused on crypto, and then NFT. Also, I started analyzing it, and I realized that it's really also, it's about community, and really what it is community owned art, right? That's essentially what we're dealing with. Is we're dealing with no longer owned by an individual. It's not, you have one, let's say, kind of like a generic picture that's broken down 10,000 pieces or 5,000 pieces.
Yeah.
So with NFTs, it's so much to do. It's everything to do with community. And I came up when we came up with Tripsters. What I realized what we could do with Tripsters is we have the ability to connect community, by airdropping, by airdropping a one-time use NFT, and it's compatible with your original NFT, and you morph it into kind of a tripped out version of your original NFT.
Mm-hmm.
But now, what really the deeper purpose of what we're doing is we're connecting communities, because we're basically taking whole communities and we're making it to one big larger ecosystem.
Yes.
And it kind of also, I started to realize also was that, community plus utility really equals longevity, with Web3.
Yes.
And yeah, I'm just, throughout this whole process, I'm really just analyzing, observing, and really learning, and not really quite sure where I'm going to go with it. Just kind of have this feeling that there's something much bigger if I'm able to accomplish what I want to accomplish. Connecting communities isn't always easy, especially with the start we had, because you have to really give a reason to want to connect.
Right. Right. And can we rewind? I don't think, and if you don't want to talk about it, that's totally fine. But I don't think everybody here is familiar with the life of the project and what you all went through, because I also do think it speaks to your character and why people should look to invest in your project.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, look, we were one of, we gave away 4 boardies. So as soon as I saw this vision, and I just um I'm like, well, this could be something really, really big if I connect communities. Um,
Yeah.
and I'm obviously somewhat well off, and I had this idea of like I'm gonna give away 4 board apes to really, really gain interest and really kind of like also almost like showing that this is how we connect communities. Like we're bringing the board apes into our community, and we kind of have this this vision, and we're one of the most hyped projects out there.
Right.
It was a really cool experience. Yeah, I'm kind of a shy person, and to like kind of have a stage and people interested, and
Yeah.
I spoke at a conference. It was certainly like a really cool experience. And then Mint happened, and Mint just went absolutely. I mean, you can't possibly think of like just a worse circumstance. We had a marketer who, I don't really, I really don't like talking bad about people, and I just let's say
Yeah,
he had ill
you don't need to
intentions.
use names, or you can just
Yeah,
talk about
no,
this.
he was just, yeah, he really he saw what type of ambition I had, and really what type of backing I had, and he really took advantage of that, and
Mhm.
kind of crafted even the Mint. I think back and about how it happened, and the structure of it. Like he really was just manipulated for his own benefit. And it was just we mentioned the day after the other site came out. It was just there's so many factors
Yeah.
that really we gave away 4 videos. We hired a third party auditor too, because we knew like we're giving away 4 videos, people are gonna be like, "Oh, you didn't really give them away." So literally spent like $200,000 to hire a third party auditor to handle the giveaway. And the day before it meant, he's like, "Oh, good, I'll do it." And I the day before mint, the 2 days before mint, he's like, I'm happy to do the giveaway." Which this whole story doesn't even make sense when I said it. He's like, "But I need to audit your contract." So he audits the contract. He's like, I found a hole in it. I found a vulnerability. It's like the only way I'll do the giveaway is if I could redo it. And we're like, "What do you mean? It's 2 days before mint." Um, and then I have the marketer telling me, he's like, "Well, if he doesn't authorize it, all the alpha groups that are going to be coming in won't come in." And I would just, I really didn't know anyone at Web3. Like
Right.
my other business, before I got into Web3, it was the most amazing. I was so prideful because I, 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 I really didn't have to speak to more than 5 people. It's such a small ancillary industry. Um, I had no social media. I was off social media for 2 years at that point. Um, and coming into this industry, I knew no one, and I got introduced to him, and I kind of was trustworthy. He seemed trustworthy, and I trust. I was introduced through someone who I'd done business with before, who kind of vouched for the guy, and he really took advantage. And I was I obviously saw the upside, and I kind of if everything went well, quite frankly, I was taking advantage of, and I kind of built it into the cost of it. But when things didn't go well, you start to look back and reanalyze what
Sure.
went wrong. And so we redo the contract. The contract's, I don't know. To this day I don't know how I got so fucked up. But like the whitelist, like all these groups that we spent months building up and getting whitelist spots for weren't in the whitelist contract. Like they literally checklist of everything that can go wrong went wrong.
Wow.
And dreams crushed. I had all these ambitions and huge ideas, and all of a sudden it's almost like I was like like when mint goes that bad, it, in this industry, such a small industry that,
Yep.
you know, like to get anything done is just you're fighting from way behind.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, we burnt all these relationships by not getting these people on the whitelist. You know, all these communities that we were supposed to hook up, and you know, no one was able to mint, and it was just, and I was just like, yeah. But to that day, since that day, let me tell you, man, I've been on a mission. You know, most people would have called it a day, a long time ago. But I've been, you know, I didn't fire one person, obviously, other than the marketer. You know,
Huh.
you know, you know, we've, you know, we've held it together, and I have this vision that I think this could, you know, by connected communities could become absolutely something, you know,
Yeah.
magical, and I'm determined. I mean, say driven, passion. This is like something that you know, I spend most of my day thinking about and making moves. And it took a while to like kind of build back the trust in the community, the broader community, not just our community. And I think we're getting there. We're building, and you know, the temperament and the patience that it's taken, but we're finally like, you know, really putting together something really cool. You know, we're so kind of, you know, everything happens for a reason. I'm a true believer in that, and you know, being that it was so difficult to connect with communities, and that's really what this project is about, is connecting with communities. I really came up with something that almost, you know, I realized, well, in order for communities to want to connect with me, I really have to be more than just art, cool art. It's really offer them a benefit and utility.
Yep.
And
Mhm.
you know, I see an opportunity, a deficiency in the space, in the crypto and NFT space and all, is that you know, everything's about community, yet there's no community centers. There's no places for communities to meet in real life. And if you think about strength of a project, and people really see this in time, is that a strength of a project is simply the strength of your community and who's in the community. Um, and that really dictates the value of your project and really of where you can go. And I think that, you know, the pop-ups that are currently in place in this space are inefficient, kind of awkward, and it's something that we're here to change, is to give a permanent physical location to Web3. Um, and that's really what my vision is, and really, um, you know, have a place where people could come, network, and really grow their community. And we've come up with a very unique, cool way of doing so, and I guess we'll get into it. Can I do into it now? Is that something we should talk about? Um,
So love the story. Thank you for being so vulnerable and telling us, you know, listen, the shit hit the fan, right? Like
Yeah.
you had spent a lot of time there building rapport. Community is key, and I love your visions for the future. Um, am I allowed to show that? I'm assuming I am. You sent me the PDF of the space. I think that's actually kind of cool, so I can bring that up on stream once we talk about that a little more. But before we continue to go, um, Maddie, I wanted to make sure you didn't have any questions about the story, and then I would love to, because this is very interesting. We kind of have this dynamic that we usually don't have, right? We usually talk to, it's usually a founder or like co-founders, but we have Dare, who was part of the community and has now worked himself into part of the core team, because you saw, I'm assuming, all of this happen, right, Dare? So I would
Yeah.
love to see like this is cool because now we get a community member's perspective that has just firmly believed in the project and continued to double down. But before we get your insight there, Matt, any follow-up questions to what Jason had?
Yeah, well, my only question is this. You said when we went back through your life story, you've had failures, right? You've said don't be afraid to make mistakes. And you've had these moments of kind of like you've seen the highs, and you've seen the lows. Do you feel like because of that, you've seen so much of that, especially coming from Wall Street? I mean, just it's just so crazy how you go all in. And you even said, you know, how you went all in on well, you missed out on Floki, right? So you have these ups and downs. Do you think that has helped you with your resilience handling this situation?
Um, 100%. I mean, look, you know, throughout this process, I've had so many instances where I just felt so defeated. Hold on, let me just. I'm sorry. Let me just.
Take your time, man. Take your time.
No. Yeah, I've had, you know, so many instances where I felt defeated, and really just, you know, just, you know, questioning. I question it, and then I go to sleep and I wake up the next day and I'm just right back at it.
Yeah.
Um,
We might have
which,
lost.
which I'll credit one thing is that
Hold on real quick,
I've
man. You're
since
cutting.
launch, I've
Hold on
completely
real
cut out
quick.
drugs and alcohol in my life,
You're
and it
cut.
really helped me. Because I'm at my
Yep,
We
rugged.
lost them. Totally rugged.
Rugged. Well, Dare, your time to shine.
This
Usually
is
always right.
your time to shine now, Dare. Tell us, hit it, tell, you know.
So, yeah, I mean, what Mikey was saying, right? I mean, I agree. I was actually going to say that exact same thing. Like, it's an interesting perspective because we can hear from both sides of the fence. Walk us through it. Walk us through this whole thing through your side of it. What did you see as just a community member? What gave you the belief to say this is worth staying, and not only staying, but like becoming a part of? Walk us through that process. I think that's really important for people to hear.
Yeah, so I actually I was degenning hard before Tripsters. Participated in a couple of rugs, you know, the usual code of honor. He said,
Yeah,
That's what we all did. You got it.
Scammed by an open
You
sea
have-
agent, bro. That wasn't real.
And I remember Tripsters. I don't even know how it happened. I found Tripsters just below, I think, 100 or 200 followers. It was like when it had really just, and just from the branding sake and the name, and like it's very unique, just the way it was positioned. I started following it like any other DGen, put the notifications on, and I just started keeping track of it. And then they did this whole like locked in Discord, and you had those invitations that you had to quickly do. It was kind of that meta still at the time. And I was, you know, I kept it on, I kept track of it, and I was one of the very first people to get in the Discord. So I wasn't even a part of the team at all. Not a moderator or anything. I was just a straight up community member. And as Tripsters kept evolving, like 2 weeks into it, started to get a lot more attention, started to get a lot more hype, and they started doing recruitment for like junior moderators, like helpers. And I was like, you know, I see a lot of potential here. Like this could be one of those projects that just does well. And so I applied to be a moderator, had a little interview process. It went really, really well. It was just funny. I ended off saying, in real life, I like Coca-Cola like a lot. Like if you know me, that's like a drink. And I ended off
your
the
thing, huh?
yeah, and I ended off the interview by saying I also really enjoy Coke. And then they just kind of looked at me like weird, and I was like, "To clarify, Coca-Cola, not pure Coke."
You know,
I thought I messed up the whole interview right there.
that's funny.
That's
I love it.
hilarious.
I love it.
I'm gonna write that down for one of the best interview lines ever.
At the end of it, it seemed like it went really well, and like it seemed like they had just decided that I was going to be part of the helper team. And as soon as I got accepted into the group, I told my wife, I was in work, and I told them, um, like I told you guys earlier, when I set my mind to something that I really want, I'm gonna drive hard to like really get there. So not too long later, I was one of the first moderators that they brought on because of that whole thing. And then they felt that I deserved to be hired. So I became the first head moderator. Like the position wasn't there first, and then they created it. And then I had like a discussion with them. I was like, listen, there's really no difference between the admin and the head moderator besides a couple permissions. And I was like, honestly, I'm not trying to step on anyone's toes, but like, I think it should just be a position that you delete. And I'm okay with being bumped back down to just moderator, if you don't feel like it should go up higher. And, they had more discussions and whatnot. Eventually, I became one of the admins of the group. And this is like when I really started evolving from like doing a lot for the community and being very involved in there to doing a lot behind the scenes. And this is when I got to more closely work with the certain individual that was a bad actor amongst all of us. Jason just texted me asking me how does he get back in.
Hold on. Is he in the waiting room?
Let me tell him.
No, he's not. He needs to go back in that the VIP waiting room. We can get him back in there.
I didn't realize our whole thing's all messed up. I forgot about that.
Oh yeah.
Shit.
Oh yeah. Cameras are whack right now.
Oh man.
You know what we can do real quick? Hold on here. We're going to take a brief little pause because I want to get back to this. This is juicy there. But speaking of your favorite drink, the one that you could have had that confused as, I think it might be time for a quick little moment of silence for Coolio. Can we all just recognize midlife crisis? We are obviously, we're in our 40s, so Coolio was, a part of our childhood. And yeah, man, RIP. That's super sad. That is super, super sad.
I see Jason in the waiting room.
Okay.
Okay, good deal. Speaking of that, Mike, he was just at the Frederick Fair performing literally last week.
No, he wasn't.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Are you shitting me?
Yeah.
Just had a heart attack.
What's up, man? Throw that camera back on. We'll get you fixed up.
Boom,
there we
baby.
go.
Just like
now
that.
We're talking.
We're right back. I was starting to
It's
switch
cool.
it around, but I was like, he'll be back eventually.
Yep.
Yep. Trying to figure out how.
No, you're good. You're good, man. So, we took our opportunity to just go straight into Dare's story. So he's gonna finish that out, and then we'll come back to you.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, so keep it rolling. So basically, you started seeing behind the scenes, and this is where you got a little more interaction with some of the people on the team. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, I started to learn the dynamic of how the structure really was. The moderators, great guys, they are moderators. Like that's what they're so focused on. And once I became admin, I started doing more administrative things for the moderation, but like also helping out the project and furthering it. And at that time, admins and team, they were two different roles, but like they were starting to blur the lines because it's the same thing, just slightly different permissions.
Yeah.
And that's when I start to work really closely with this other person and see how things were being handled in the background by him. And that's when I start to understand like the founders are actually great guys. And he's just that intermediary liaison between them and the rest of the team, and then the team to the moderators.
Right.
And I started doing a lot of work started getting and securing a lot of collaborations and setting up a lot of relationships. And I hated involving him just because he he would come in and he would, just get really straight to the point, ignore the relationship that's been built,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of be manipulative in the way his tactic was,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Um, Even at points like there was specifically one time where he straight up tried to bribe them. And I
Mm-hmm.
called right after that and I was like, listen, you can buy one of their NFTs and give it away. You can, do even a money giveaway.
Right.
But you do not just straight up just tell them I'll pay you to set this up. And any problem that would come, like any problem that we had, he would just go directly and say,
Yeah.
"Oh, they're not listening to me. Like they're not taking my
Yeah.
advice. They're not understanding how things need to be taken care of or paid." And I was like, I'm starting to really understand that I'm still below him, right? I'm still below the team, so it's not like I have much room to speak. But I'm starting to understand that he's abusing the relationship he has with the founders, and he's manipulating things to seem different than they actually are.
Right.
And that's like when
So
we started.
and before, because I don't want to spend the whole time on just this guy or whoever it is, um, because again, we kind of know what I wanted. What I'm curious about is, and what is important is what you identified is that you recognized character flaws, right? That we can
Yeah.
certainly say you recognize there were some character flaws there. It seemed they were repeated. When things started getting to a head, is it because you recognize that that was a bad apple and not the founders? Is that what gave you the belief to say, all right, I still want this to win and stay on with the team and help make it thrive?
Yeah. Great question.
It is that, and it was also just the incredible community. Like at the time, we had about I think it was like 30,000 members, and online we had about 16,000. And it was like our ratios of like activity and to what our members are. It's not fake. Like it's a lot of genuine people inside the Discord.
Right.
And then on top of, we're doing really incredible things. Like the founders have gone out of their way to give away 4 Bored Apes. They're already purchased, so it's not a figurative idea. We always had them in our community wallet so that people can keep track of them, see what the status is, and it never changed. It was always there.
Right.
I knew about how my experiences was in person when we had all met each other at Miami, NFT Week Miami.
Yeah.
I enjoyed my time there. I enjoyed meeting the other guys on the team. We got to see in person how people felt about the project. People get excited to get whitelists in person and whatnot. We also had an Illuminati collection where, Tom Brady has an ape in there. Steve Aoki, Fuck Render, Evan Tan, like just a lot of really incredible people. Neymar Jr. That we were able to trip their apes and make like a very limited edition collection for them. So it's kind of one of those things where you're in a position where like you don't necessarily like someone, but just because you don't like them doesn't nullify the validity of a project. It doesn't
Right.
Sure.
remove
Right.
what the
There we
founders
go.
are doing, the rest
All
of
right.
the team is working on, what the community is still, hoping and dreaming for what this project is coming out of it.
Yeah.
Not to
Sure.
mention the incredible collabs that I helped secure, that some of the other guys helped secure with awesome communities like, the Ape List, Llamaverse, Mason Ghost's community. A lot of really, at the time, hyped projects.
Mm-hmm.
And we just had all cylinders firing, verified accounts, incredible, engaging, real community, celebrity involvement, and a genuine idea that can grow beyond just the one collection, right? It's our collection by extension with the rest of them.
Right.
Sure.
And that's what really kept motivating me to like, you know, um, don't like the situation with that part, but everything else was fantastic.
Right.
And so when it came time to like finally mint, and that's the epitome of the project essentially. and everything just kind of going horribly wrong. I can imagine how the founders were privately, but it's literally every possible worst scenario is happening. Um, and it's crazy because even as that's all happening, the community is just still there, and
Yeah.
they're not even really fudding. They're more so just asking like what's going on, like what can be done, when can we pick up the progress of all of it. And that's really just what kept me on board,
Yeah.
is because even after it
Okay.
all happened, even after all the disappointment from what could have been, um, they stuck by it and they didn't just immediately give up. And even after I found out even more about the dynamic and the relationship and how toxic that liaison was, the fact of having the willingness to, for one, come on stage, admit the accidents, the faults that happened, the mistrust, the misplaced trust,
Yeah.
Mhm.
um, and just taking the accountability and responsibility and just apologizing for it. And then on top of that, digging deeper into your own pocket to keep on your team, hire more people to get the artwork done, and then get more money to just keep accomplishing the goals that you had envisioned prior.
Right.
It's like all these, like, you know, this guy, he was feeding us false information that, the founders didn't care. And at the end of the day, that they more than cared. They've gone, they've gone negative to care. And
Yeah.
the reality is, if they wanted to rug, they could have. If they wanted to disappear, they could have a long time ago. And even just from a personal perspective, like, to have your entire trust to be completely shattered and to feel violated as a person and to still say, you know, I'm going to come into work next day. It's quite admirable.
Yeah.
And the rest of it is that the rest of the moderators see that. And the really core community, I mean, most of the community has stuck by and decided, I want to keep supporting Tripsters, and there's really no reason that it can't do well long term.
Right. Damn great story, man. And
Yeah.
I think Jason, that's a good testament to who you are as a character and the fact that, I think that we now know, and this is why we do things on the show, that that story and him saying, oh, this project is real, would not make sense if we didn't hear your life story, right? And you've had a lot of
Yeah.
opportunities throughout your life to thicken the skin, to learn, to grow. And that's why I think you're still here. And it's really cool to see that now I got a PDF with actual renderings and going through hell and back, and you're still growing, and you got some pretty cool shit to share, man. I mean, that's pretty awesome. Before I ask Jason to go through kind of the future and the next stage, and what I'm gonna do, Jason, as you're doing that, I have the PDF. I took 4 or 5 of the shots, and I'm gonna actually get rid of Maddie and I's video and bring them over the screen. So as we talk about the future of the project and what you got going on with the social club and the venue, people are actually going to be able to see that visual as well.
Okay, great.
Maddie, anything you got before I move on to that?
No, man, I love what you said. And Mikey, I'm glad you connected it to this is why we get your stories. I hope you guys are seeing the value. And the reason we do this is because so dare think of everything you just said and why that made you want to stay, why the community wanted to stay. And now think about what this story, now that it's here on this podcast, that it's been shared, when people know that it's about people, not projects, and they learn who those people are, it's really, really valuable to what you guys are trying to build. And so that's what we like to bring out. Like I said, we don't necessarily show or promote one particular project over the other. We promote people. And we're fascinated by meeting those people. And I think both of your stories and where you came from, who you are as people, has really been a testimony to why the project is still where it's at, and that it's going to be coming out of this. And so I just think that's important to note.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
All right, Jason. So take it away. Now we've gotten caught up. We went through the crazy mint, but we know your character. The team's here to stay. You've got vision. You've got future. And now I've got kind of these concepts on screen. Take us from kind of, you started talking about the mutant vials, and we used the video to promote the stream about the Tripster club, and kind of take us through that. What is the that, and what the next, let's say, 6 months looks like for Tripsters?
Well, so so the idea is essentially what it is. It's a museum, and I think in the NFT space in general, it's important that there's a museum, right? Like I told you before, throughout this process, I really took a lot of time to study art, the history of art, and there's the same narrative over and over again. Is that there's no masterpiece became a masterpiece without being in a museum,
I like
and
that.
not just not just being in a museum, but being in a museum for a long period of time. And really the reason why a museum it sets a standard, but also it provides the proper exposure, and through the exposure, the community that that builds around it, builds demand for it, really escalates. However, there's a couple fundamental differences between a traditional art and digital art. Is that one, it's community owned, therefore there's a social club and there's a venue that you get further into. So there has to be some social aspect to it. And two, being that it's digital, you could broadcast the same image in multiple locations simultaneously, as opposed to traditional art where it's just in one location. Um, and so, I kind of got this idea, and it all kind of circled into, connected communities. Is that, okay, well, what can I offer them that they want to come into this club and come into want to join with Tripsters? Is that, I'm offering them a utility that, really the ultimate utility is mass exposure. Um, and also, if you think about it from people who come into the space, and whether it be a collector or just an investor, you kind of know that if you're investing in something like this, it's going to be around for a long time, and it's going to grow, right? So, there's being that there's, just so much accessibility. There's so many projects coming out. If there is a way to kind of, I don't want to say set a standard, but um, really define, which ones are going to become the masterpieces. According to my theory, is that we're really sitting through the renaissance of art on the blockchain, right? This is, within 10 years, so much is going to live on the blockchain, whether it's, commerce, contracting, insurance.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense that right now, today's day and age, the art that came out from this period is the Renaissance period, and it needs a museum.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a cool concept, and and so it has a social club, and at night, if you think about it, right? So the room, the social club that's kind of for members only. It's also about adoption, right? It's like, how does adoption happen? I have a theory that I think adoption happens in the universe, not the metaverse. I think the metaverse is still years away from being relevant. I think adoption happens by people actually adopting to using digital assets in real life.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's this falsity that, we live in Web3, so we kind of like, okay, yeah, digital assets are assets, but there's a falsity that it's nothing, right? Like, we're kind of like in the stage where where you're familiar with the tulip mania.
Tulip mania.
Tulip mania.
No.
Tulip mania was something that happened in 1634, I think, I think it was Amsterdam, maybe some Dutch. And basically, there was this craze for tulips. A simple tulip cost more than a house. And the value of the tulips just exploded. And then after a couple of years, people realized they're just fucking tulips.
Right.
And the value just completely collapsed. And so we're kind of like in this phase of NFT art is like, okay, well, is this tulips or we're sitting on masterpieces, sitting on real art? So, but aside from, people who are within this space, think about the people who are out of the space. They're thinking it's just tulips. Like these people just got fooled. And I believe that no, it's wrong. I think that it's that what we're sitting on is the next evolution of art. And even the art that came out the past 100 years or so, right? I mean, there's never been a situation where something could just spread in popularity across the globe so quickly.
Right.
Sure.
Such as NFT art, and I think just based off of that, but I think adoption really happens when like you see what can happen. You kind of got a taste of what can happen with the Bored Apes and CryptoPunks. Is that when a certain type of people get involved, but they kind of got involved. They're kind of certain people bought in, certain people were given, but they're not really into it, right? But what happens in a world where people actually collect it and there's notoriety that comes with owning it,
Right.
and there's that, traditional art has this element to it, like I have and you don't. Well, what happens when you kind of really get down to the bare bones of these collections, not just buying the floors, but really, really, really hunting down the really rare ones? Because
Right.
also, like as I
Sure.
was studying Renaissance art, so much about the art is in the details, and I think a lot of the details get lost when you just look at it on OpenSea. When people break down Renaissance art, they really talk about each stroke, what type of coloring, what type of layering. There's so much is about the details, and I think it's the same case with NFT art and the arts and the attributes, right? And kind of about which attributes I have and you don't, and also one main thing which I just see OpenSea just started changing is that just having a picture of NFT art without knowing how rare it is, it really just makes it kind of having like a museum of beautiful paintings, but not listing what name who the painter was.
Yeah.
Another element that NFT art has that people don't realize that it's finite, which is equatable to dead artists. That's really where once an artist dies, really when the value pops, because now his collection is finite, done.
No more. Yeah. No more
and
new art.
there's no more new art. But an NFT collection has the same element, and it's so when there's so few people collecting it, a 10,000 piece collection could look very large. But what happens when that number multiplies in the millions? All of a sudden, and it's multiplied by the millions, and they're all focused on what is masterpieces.
Yeah.
And so I think through time, these, there's going to be certain collections that are going to be worth absolutely,
Let me
an obscene amount of money.
Yeah.
let me hear. I want to push back a little bit because I'm curious about this. This is a fascinating take on it because you're coming from really the art side of this in your view of NFTs and their future value. And here's my question to you, and this is just how my brain works. Lots of things can create value for different ways, right? In your description of what could be art in a finite amount and creating value out of that, and it's something that's beautiful, and if there's a community of people that want to buy it, I get all that. I totally see what you're saying. But there's two other elements I do think that are at play here, and I think that maybe there's room for all three of these things to exist. And I'd be curious to hear all of your answers to this. But if you take something, let's just take McDonald's, right? Nothing about McDonald's is spectacular, but if you recall when McDonald's launched the Monopoly game for the first time, what that did to McDonald's sales was astronomical. And all they did was take the exact same French fries, the exact same Big Mac, the exact same nuggets, right? And they put a game around it, and people were so excited about collecting those Monopoly pieces, even though we knew in our head you're never actually going to get Boardwalk or whatever it was. You know what I mean? We loved it. And
Right.
you get the new little stickers on your fries, and people were doing dumb things like, let me get hash browns, a large fry, a Coke, anything that had the tickets on it, they were buying, right? So there's that aspect where the value didn't change, but the interest, because there was this game around it, changed. I do think there's an element of that in NFTs. And then the other thing is that I'm going to say the Starbucks model, right? Starbucks has convinced at least enough people that they can sell you coffee, which should cost about a quarter, and they can sell it to you for $5, right? And let's not pretend it's anything else other than that. They are taking something with a 5,000% markup and convincing you that it's gourmet, and we buy it, right? And people love their Starbucks, and they budgeted in their monthly expenses a number of trips to Starbucks to get a $7 drink. And so, but what they're selling is just coffee, which you could make for 25 cents. And so what I think is interesting is that some of the NFTs are doing a Starbucks model, right? They're just arbitrarily marking something up, but there isn't really anything else to it that you or I couldn't do on our own. Some of them are using this McDonald's model. What I hear you saying is there's an art component that's there. And my question to you three is, how much of that art component is they're gonna, I guess, can last through this initial hump in NFTs? That's what I'm curious about, because I can see a McDonald's model moving forward simply because that's human nature, right? You studied psychology a little bit. You know what I'm
Well,
talking about there. Where do you see this all going?
because you're looking at it from a very ancillary point of view of where the market is right now, right? You're
Yeah,
looking at it
for
from,
sure.
okay, who's in right now. These
Yeah.
people are gamers, traditionally, kind of the people who discovered it at first, right? Um, but if you look at from a kind of outside perspective, when people start looking at it as art, and what I have like, the and people start collecting it for art, I think that is when you have a whole different realm of people interested in buying it.
Sure.
Yeah.
And kind of having a physical location also to show it off, right? It's kind of like
Sure.
the same reason why people like to buy Ferraris and Rolls Royces, or
Right.
Yeah, they want to be
Tactically,
seen. They want to be
Yeah.
seen in it. Now, great
Yeah.
point. That's a great
well,
point.
well, they want to have the notoriety of owning it,
Yeah.
and owning something I have that you don't, and also something that has a tremendous amount of value. But art, like I said before, is the definition of it is worth what the next person is willing to pay for it.
Right.
So
Yeah.
the market is constantly being
Determined. Yeah.
it's being marked. It's being marked to market by the next person, by the next sale.
Yep. And so
Um,
I have to add to that though, because my brain goes in a totally different direction. I think it's a great question, Maddie. Because I immediately, while you were talking, Maddie, go and started thinking like, okay, so in 10 years from now, what name is going to stick around? Obviously the Bored Apes and the Punks, because they were kind of the first. But then after that, is it because they did something first, like a utility wise? So like, is a wolf game gonna be like quote unquote art because of what it delivered via utility and was one of the more first hype token gaming projects? or are people going to appreciate it for what it is, right? And Maddie and I will tell you right now, we played enough Nintendo growing up. We are not fans of, or huge fans of pixelated art, because we've seen that enough, and that's just not art to us. Where my brain goes is, I am with you, Jason, that there will be value based on this historical moment in time, and
Sure.
what we are involved in right now. This moment, like you said, once it becomes commercialized, Discords, this Twitter hype, all the shit that we're doing right now is gone, right? It just won't exist. So there's a special moment in time. I think what will be interesting to see, is it the art? Is it the people associated with it? The business models that were created? Utility? What is all going to impact that?
Well, yes, it's 100%. It's the people. I mean, the people create the value, right? I mean, if you there's a reason why certain paintings go for $120 million, right? It's because there's a group of billionaires, community billionaires, who want it more than the next.
Mm-hmm.
But with community-owned art, it's a little different, because you could have multiple people, multiple of the same type of people. I mean, you could have multiple people owning it at the same time. So it's all about the community, who owns it, what type of people, right? And then you see this in
Right.
Bored Ape and CryptoPunks. You have people, you organically got celebrities to come in, right? Or not promoted, organically start collecting it,
Right.
and that's
Sure.
why the value is where it's at. And that's precisely my point. Is that when you break that barrier, they flirted with the idea of what can happen. But what happens when it goes mainstream? I mean, look, back to art history, right? There's something called, impressionist art. It's impressionist art. It used to be very detailed art. First, like, I started studying, maybe the 1800s, kind of like not detailed. Everything was about details when the Renaissance period. Everything was about, godly figures, and then it went to women figures, and then there was a period of impressionist where it was kind of like blotchy. And when it first came around, people were like, "What the fuck is this?" They're like, "Dude, you didn't even finish your painting." People thought it was ugly. And now it's going for tens of millions of dollars. And then abstract art. Right? Abstract art is
Yeah.
the lines and boxes. And
Yeah.
same thing happened, is that people were like, "What the fuck is this?"
Right.
And people saw the beauty, they saw the details, and they saw who started buying it. And I think we're going to see the same. Not that I know we're going to see the exact same thing with NFT art. It circles back to so much is going to live on the blockchain, right? So people are going to start realizing that just because digital asset is an asset, there's falsity in the broader realm of the universe. That if it lives in the digital asset, it's not real, but it's false. It lives on the blockchain.
Yeah.
They're just, it just has to be brought out that it is a physical. It is something. It is real. And it's also with cryptocurrency. People think that it's, what is it? And you're gonna start seeing the same thing with cryptocurrency, is that people are gonna start realizing, well, this is a real asset. People saw it with Bitcoin, but I think, really, as blockchain technology takes over, and that's why you see all these big corporations coming in. They don't know how to get in, but they just want to be involved because they realize blockchain technology is the future.
Right.
They're just not quite sure how they're going to do it.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, so I completely agree with you. I think more my point was, will a NFT, just based off pure aesthetics, art aesthetics, gonna be like the hot thing 10 years from now, or is an impressionist painting, like you
like
said,
I said,
hold on real quick, like an impressionist
Sorry.
painting, like you said, that people are like, what the hell is this? But there's a moment in time that made it important, aka Wolf Gamer. They created a utility that didn't exist in the space. So the extra benefits that came with this NFT are going to make it valuable. It's a little nuanced, like we're talking about, where art is really a picture, a display of an expression, whereas NFTs has a little more to it. And it's going to be really interesting to see 10 years from now what, I think both will be valuable, but it'll be interesting to see what wins out. Do you see what I'm saying?
Well, no. So I could tell you very simply. My answer to you is that there's going to be art and there's also gaming, right? This takes
Yeah.
the block, right? So you're seeing both, and the worlds collide.
Yeah.
And you know, the fact that one could live and the other, you know, that they could live. They not only they're you know they'll be appreciated, you know, maybe one and the same or differently, but
Mhm.
that's kind of my point, is that how much blockchain technology is going to take over. And that's exactly why I believe that right now we're sitting in the renaissance period of art
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
blockchain.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I
Yeah, it's fascinating.
agree. I agree with you. I'm just really more fascinated to see what is, obviously, other than the names that are obviously, if they're a name now or one of the first, they're going to be a thing 10 years from now, most likely, just as a moment
Well,
in
you
history, right?
you
So, but
really have
like,
to see it like
what else?
what I mean.
What else will be the quote unquote Mona Lisa of the OG NFTs, right? That it'll be interesting
Yeah.
to see how it plays out.
Well, that's kind of what I'm creating. Is I'm creating a
Yeah.
museum to differentiate.
Yeah, no, and
Say,
it'll be awesome to
Absolutely.
see, to be able to have that on display and see how people react to it as time evolves. I mean,
Of course.
it makes sense.
Yeah, you're
you
creating
know,
a social hub where people can create value out of the art. And as you said, people, I love how you said it. You said, you know, when a billionaire decides they want something, suddenly it's like you said, it's worth whatever they'll pay for it. But
Exactly.
once they've done it, other billionaires are like, well, shit, you know, all right, Jason just bought this painting for $10 million. I better go get something from that artist now before it goes up in value. You know what I mean? Like, I see what you're saying. It
Yeah.
creates, and so by putting it on display and focusing, like hyper focusing attention on it in a certain way, you're kind of directing where those eyes are going to go. Is that what am I understanding that
well,
correct?
I'm directing where those eyes are going to go, and I'm also bringing the people who say, "Oh, wow, I want this." And then what happens when
Ah, I
that
see.
person says, "I want this," and then the next person says, "I want it too," and then what happens to the value there? And it's not just
I
Ah,
talking
see.
about me.
gotcha.
All
Gotcha.
It's
right, I
not
see
just
Yeah.
what
like,
you're doing. So you're
Yeah.
playing on a little psychology. Okay, I like it. I like it. This is
No,
cool.
that makes
well,
It's
total
coming
well,
together.
sense.
you know, I know a lot about markets, right? So here we're sitting in a market where you move the market, the person works the market,
Right.
right? I
Yeah.
dealt with auditors for years, right? And hard to value asset, and you know, like a piece of real estate, for example, right? To dictate the value. You have to go on Zillow and say, oh, look, the house next to me sold 2 months ago for X amount of money. Therefore, this house, similar square footage, worth X amount. But then there's assets who, you know, the market dictates really what it is, right? And this
Yeah.
is the purest form of that, is that the people, whoever's willing, you know, they kind of mark the market. So what I'm trying to do is singling out X amount of, you know, 12 communities, not just, and then of those 12 communities, I'm singling out the 5% most rarest of them and putting them in a
Got
museum,
it.
seeing what happens, and adding a social element to it with the social club and the event of the I want to call it a nightclub, but the venue center where you also see this correlation between music and you know musicians and
Yeah.
that culture really
Yeah.
drive value of these. So you know I'm connecting that element and then the social element, and I'm excited. You know, it's really picking up steam. You know, I have a world-renowned hospitality operator coming up with the details and rendering as we speak. You know, look, you know, my wheelhouse is dealing with institutional funds, and I think I'm almost there
Yeah.
to go to to get institutional money and really blow this thing up. Because, like I said,
Right.
you know, you have a couple things, right? You see in Web3, like, you know, it's all about community, but yeah, there's no community centers. And I think if I'm able to provide, you know, kind of that social club, that social element of, you know, everything's built the same, right? They're all built the same. We're all kind of like introverts in a way, kind
Right.
of some extroverts, but we like familiarity. That's why these pop-ups of things are so inefficient and awkward.
Mm-hmm.
We like familiar atmosphere, the familiar vibe. So they're all going to be built the same. So I'm coming out with a build out, and I think they're extremely scalable. Really scalable, and being able to connect communities. I'm able to connect communities from around the world and really capture like a really global audience, global community. And I think by doing so, I'll be able to really scale them on a global scale.
Right. And then, so one thing that just popped up with what you said, because I think it's really interesting, is taking those rarities and putting them on display. Are people going to be able to, I'm assuming, buy these physical art pieces? And if they do, will that come with the digital NFT as well? Is that the plan?
These are not physical. These are NFTs.
Yeah, it's just NFTs.
Oh, it's just NFTs. So
He's
you're
just showing it.
You're
He's
just going to
digitally
show
showing
it,
it.
and it's straight
Yeah.
museum. This is just showing it. No one can buy anything. Okay.
No, they could buy it. I mean, they could buy it. There'll be like a barcode where they can just scan it right on the spot.
Okay.
But it's really gonna illustrate the rarity.
Yeah.
Rarities, last price, and really give the owners notoriety.
Right.
I think people will chase that.
Yeah. No.
Chase that notoriety, especially if I'm able to scale it up. People who doesn't want notoriety across the globe.
Sure.
Yeah. And I mean, dude, that's how newer the concept is, right? My head immediately went to, oh, he's just going to print these out and, people can buy them and they'll get the digital version too. But like, you're going to be displaying them digitally. I love the barcode idea. So there's just tons of potential to not only, like you said, bring new people in, because normal people understand the concept of a museum. When they go in, they're going to be like, wow, this is a new version of that. And, oh, what is that? An NFT? And that fosters a conversation, especially within a social club, when, a lot of people there are already going to be into the NFT world, and you can bring new people in physical venues. So I think there are people doing that, trying to do that. And this is one of the more honed together concepts we've seen so far.
Yeah. Well, it's also it's a venue open to the public, right? So
right.
It's going to be promoted, right? You have to remember that. But at the same time, it's going to give access to the NFT holders.
Yeah.
So what it does is it gives the FOMO in real life, right?
Yeah.
The NFT holders will go through a different entrance, right? Shorter lines.
Yep.
They have access to the VIP club. When it's in your face. I've been to clubs in my life, so you kind of know, like,
what are those people doing?
You're exactly when it's in your face, you're like, well, especially people, the same type of people who are dropping $10,000 at a bottle for the same type of people that we want to collect NFTs.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. 100%.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how, like, the barrier. How does adoption happen into A, blockchain technologies, and B, collecting NFT art is
right.
Kind of having a physical location where people can go and like I didn't realize how easy MetaMask was, and if I did realize that, then it took me like 6 months to start buying my own NFTs. I had someone do it for me because I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but people just don't realize the barrier of really breaking into blockchain technology is so simple, and like, I came from New York, and like all my friends in New York are just like they're so behind. NFT blockchain technology is just so not mainstream, and
right.
What drives me is really I know the opportunity that if I could play a role in adoption of blockchain technology, it just I obviously realize there's a tremendous amount of opportunity there.
Yeah. Nah, man, I love how you explained it. And Dare, we've been going back and forth. Anything to add to this conversation about the future? What excites you about the future for the project?
Yeah, actually, I grew up with my dad loving art, and it's even about like expensive art. It's just about art in general. And I have a very fundamental understanding that art is the only kind of currency that is dictated, its value is dictated by the person buying it. Art is almost more liquid than anything else physical in the world besides gold and actual currency. But more than that, it's the only thing that can fluctuate in value so drastically just because of how someone feels about it. Um, and the beauty of NFTs is you can offer NFTs with actual utility. You can offer NFTs with some sort of usable capability, but you can also offer and showcase NFTs just for their art and what intention and background and history kind of goes behind it. And creating this like museum style thing, I think it's gonna create a more modernized version of like people going to a gallery and immediately being able to see, what someone created, what their intentions were behind it with certain attributes. What the thought process is to even like make certain attributes. Like, why does someone go out of their way to make a halo? Or why does someone go out of their way to make a cigar? Like,
Right.
what is someone thinking at the time? And I think, at its core, you know, art is supposed to make you think, and it's supposed to make you put yourself in the shoes of these kind of points of time, these kinds of points of emotions. And hopefully this is like a really organic way of like bridging what traditional art would be to a digital form of art that also happens to be, flexible and can be more liquid than actual art. Um, and can even, give you a sense of community larger than, just talking to one or two friends.
Yeah.
But having this like world connection where like, everyone knows what a Van Gogh or a Picasso is, but it's not like you have hubs of friends and that's what you talk about and that's what you try to engage in,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Maybe talk about like it'd be crazy to own one. But whereas an NFT, it's like I can go to Miami and see this NFT, and it's the exact same NFT if I were to go to LA and it's being displayed there,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't have that physical limitation of needing to be in one place only.
Yeah.
It can be with you at all times and at the same time with everyone else.
Yeah.
If someone else
Well,
wants
it's
to
also
hire.
it's community owned art, right? To
Yeah.
strengthen your community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I
So
never thought about it that way until now. I don't know why, but yeah, I mean that's one of the many awesome and beautiful things about NFTs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, gentlemen,
That's what I look forward to.
yeah, no, I love it. I think that, beautifully said, like before when you added to the conversation. Believe it or not, we've been talking for 2.5 hours already. So I want to start wrapping it up here because my wife will eventually yell at me and tell me to come hang out. So
As will mine.
yeah. So I think I want to give you both the platform to, well, we still have 2 final questions for both of you, but before that, the last thing I want to do is kind of minute pitch from both of you to the people listening or to people that watch it in the future. Why come spend their hard-earned money with Tripsters and kind of the vibe that you're giving out, and more of a short, concise answer, just in case people get to this point and watch it. So I'll let you go first, Jason.
Well, we're creating the first in real life physical permanent location for Web3 anything. And by owning a Tripster, you, instead of us as a company selling membership, you actually sell the memberships. So as we bring in other communities to join us, you guys will actually get the benefit of selling them. So if you hold a Tripster, you will be able to get these airdrops that are compatible with other communities, and be a very fun ride.
Love it. Short and concise, exactly like I asked. Dare, take it away. You get a shot at doing a short, concise reason. Why Tripsters, man?
I'd say the beauty of Tripsters is the flexibility to join with one of our own NFTs or a fun, creative, artistic version of an already existing NFT that you own. and we're able to expand the community by having a community by extension. And I think more powerful than just having your very own collection.
Yeah. And I'm going to talk to you
I mean,
offline because we are brand ambassadors of a project that has the same mission statement of combining utility with multiple communities. This one specifically is through Gamify, but same thing. Totally agree with you. More communities, the better, and that's the power of the space. What were you going to say, Jason, to follow that up?
no, it's okay.
Okay.
Slipped my mind.
Okay, no problem. And so to close it out, like I said, we actually have one more question. Well, let's say two more questions, two-part question. I'll start with you, Jason. Don't be afraid. It's very simple. One, do you have any questions for us? Because we just peppered you with questions for 2.5 hours. And then the second one is, how do you think this went compared to probably the hundreds of AMAs and all of the other speaking type engagements you've had in the Web3 space?
This was a fantastic experience. You know, I would love to one day meet in real life and kick it again.
For sure.
Thanks, man.
This
We
is one of my
100% will.
one of my best experiences in Web3 talking, and you guys really got a lot out of me. I appreciate that.
Yeah, man. No, thank you so much. And that's something we keep on hearing. And we just, obviously, if you can tell, Maddie and I love doing this. And I think we luck out because we love doing this and we have a natural knack for it. And dude, so vulnerable. Thank you so much for sharing your story, because that really makes these things impactful, we think. And just like your museums in real life are going to make an impact, we think these stories are going to make an impact. And who knows? Maybe we can do an NFT digital midlife story exhibit one day. You never know, man.
I would love that.
There's always possibilities with any of this. And then two, any questions for us? If you have none, no big deal whatsoever.
I just, you guys did a great job of, making us comfortable and keeping conversation flowing great. And I appreciate both of you.
Oh, thanks, man. We appreciate you too. And then for you, Dare, same two questions, man. How do you think it went compared to all the other AMAs? And do you have any questions for us?
Yeah, actually, I think something really unique and powerful about this whole discussion is Jason and I have had the freedom to expand beyond like having to answer the demand of utility and being on top of the project, and have the flexibility to communicate that like real people here too. Like we have just as many dreams and aspirations as you, and the work is being done, and like there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and there's obviously setbacks, and it's really nice to have a space where you can communicate. Listen, we don't have 30 minutes to communicate just the vision for Tripsters, but we have, an extended amount of time to communicate our whole process through Tripsters, what we envision to see out of Tripsters, and like who we are as individuals, and why you can, put some trust into like that relationship and understand more. They're like, we're here for you, right? Like it's definitely not doing this whole thing for the money, because if that were the case, this would be long gone by now. But it's more about, like anything else, the relationships that come out of this, the money and the rest of all of it kind of take care of itself later on.
Yeah. No, all kind words, man. Appreciate it. And then finally, any questions for us? And if not, it is totally fine.
Yes. I actually do have a question.
Oh.
Do you? And if you don't, I think Jason and I can resolve that.
Do we own Tripsters? We do not own Tripsters. I'm saying that publicly. So we can talk about that offline. There's just so many projects, man. It's so hard to keep a track of them all. Honestly, like we said, before we came on air, Nikki G has become a really good friend of ours, and he, immediately said, "Hey, man, Jason, class act. You got to talk to him. Be a great fit for a show." And sure enough, we had a really, really interesting conversation. You have a great story, and now I am fully invested in the project, and I love what you guys are doing, and I cannot wait. Like we like to say this, everybody that's been on the show, we hope this is the beginning of a friendship, gentlemen, and we will be hugging out in real life. And midlife crisis is here for the real people in the space, and you two definitely are that. So we appreciate it. Maddie, I'm gonna let you hit it up with your closing comments. I'll go with my closing comments, give what else is happening rest in the midlife crisis week, and then we'll call it a wrap, gents.
Sounds good. Yeah, man, this has been a great conversation. Again, we love getting to find out about who the people are behind projects, and your stories were just fascinating. I love when people go way back too, and you both did that and really gave us an idea of kind of where you came from and how that made you who you are. And I just think it's incredibly important. Mike talks about how, it adds like an element of relatability, but I also think it also adds an element of belief. And Jason, you said how important belief was. Um, People need to know in this space that you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be Elon Musk. You don't have to be Bill Gates to succeed in this space. You know what I mean? You came from Cleveland, school wasn't really your thing, and like life taught you the lessons you needed to learn, and you took advantage of opportunities. A lot of people don't. You learn from your mistakes, and it's put you in a position where you can be where you are today. And you've both done that, right? There, you moving in and out, all the different moves, having to learn, managing multiple languages, and of course, all of the culture differences that come with that. You learned some hard lessons, following a girl to school, but then you took that lesson and turned it into lifelong relationships. These are the types of things that people need to recognize. Nobody's perfect. We're all learning along the way, but this is all possible for all of us. And I just think that that's a massive, massive message. I loved hearing your guys' story. I think it says, like I said before, a tremendous amount about your character and who you guys are as people. And I think that if people are listening to this content and listening to who you guys are, they're going to understand why they should investigate what you guys are putting together and that this is a real deal because you guys are real deals. Does that make sense? So I appreciate getting a chance to talk to you. It's been a blessing, and I cannot wait to see where this all goes. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And
We'll grab a drink. We'll grab a drink in the Trip Club.
Love it. Love it.
And I will mimic everything Matt just said, but there's a couple things that stuck out in my mind. Starting with you, Jason, for someone who has been through so much, what impressed me the most was how you spent a majority of your time talking about your failures and not your successes. And two, I can just tell that you're a genuine, humble dude. And for someone that can say they were in a high stakes poker game with Leo and they made a movie about it, you don't come off as that guy. And that just shows even more about your character. So thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for sharing your story. And thank you for coming on the show, man. Really means a lot. And then for you, Dare, again, really cool story. The thing that you said struck me the most and which made me even more just believer in you and both of you is how you doubled down on I loved your answer because not a lot of people have given an answer like that, and relationships are the key to life, and I could not agree more. The literally the thing that I say, just in another variation of that, is networking is the key to life, which really is a relationship, right? And if you build genuine, good relationships, which the show is all about, and hence why we do what we do, we believe wholeheartedly in what you think too. So we appreciate you expressing that sentiment to make us realize maybe we're not going down the wrong path. And with that being said, man, you guys are just great dudes. You're welcome back anytime. Like I said, let's start this friendship. Let's keep it going. Midlife is here for anything. Tweet, retweet. You just want advice or talk, or we'll share our past partners too if you want an introduction. We are firmly believers of be kind, pay it forward, and it'll all come in return eventually one day. So Thank you so much for your time. 2.5 hours for two gents that are extremely busy is another thing that's asking a lot too. So you guys were awesome.
Hey, thank you so much, guys.
Absolutely. And with that being said, Midlife Crisis is actually back with a Sunday non-chill stream. We got Gangster My City in the house. Apparently they're a thing. Again, a bajillion projects, but they're part of the Project Gajira Launchpad. They have some collaborations with Cyberkongs, Kaiju Kings, and Llamaverse. They're going to be coming on the show. We're talking about potential collaborations with other projects that we're involved with. We're going to have some pre-sale spots to give away. They're minting next week. We will see you all on Sunday, same time, 9 p.m. Eastern on YouTube.